want to say good evening and welcome to our candidate forum for the City of Bastrop Mayor's Race. My name is Becky Womble and I'm the President and CEO of the Bastrop Chamber of Commerce, and it's my honor to welcome you here tonight. Tonight's forum is part of our Bastrop Chamber of Commerce initiative called BastropVotes.com. The purpose is pure and simple. It's to promote the vote in Bastrop County, and we do this in 3 ways. The first one is we actively register citizens to vote. We have a website with fair, impartial, and insightful information about candidates seeking office to represent you. We conduct candidate forums like this one tonight so that you can see and hear the candidates running for office firsthand before you go to the polls on Saturday, May 6th. Since the inception, we've done more than 20 of these candidate forums in person and virtually. It's an exciting time to be a part of Bastrop County. Would you agree? Yeah. With tons of new rooftops, tons of new citizens, new companies coming here and creating jobs, it's exciting. Our city manager can give you statistics about how many people should be here in the next 10 years, and to me, it's overwhelming to even think about. But at this time, we need energetic leadership that is also visionary, because the growth is coming whether we like it or not. Before we get started, the slate of questions for tonight's forum were gathered from citizen submissions, vetted by a subcommittee of our Government Affairs Committee, and sent to our moderator. The questions will fall under this criteria. Questions that are directed at one candidate will not be asked. Rude or inflammatory questions will not be used, and questions of a similar topic have been combined to prevent repetitiveness. Tonight, we did not hear from candidate Elizabeth Northcutt, so she will not be part of this candidate forum. The candidates that are here, would you please speak clearly into your microphones so that the viewers listening at home can hear you and that we can record you for this transmission later. I don't see it happening, but if needed, we will mute your mics. I have that power and it's wonderful. The forum will end promptly at 7 p.m. or until all the questions have been asked, whichever comes first. Also, this forum is being recorded and will be posted on our Bastrop Votes website along with our Facebook page within 48 hours. If you're in the audience, please silence your cell phones. It's extremely distracting when one goes off. Finally, I need to introduce some facilitators to make tonight happen. The first one is Carrie Fossler. She serves as a member of our Government Affairs Committee on our board of directors and all-around amazing citizen. I didn't even have to ask for applause. Our moderator tonight is Mr. Charlie Stone. Mr. Stone lives in Bastrop and has for 23 years and is married to his wife Cindy of 46 years. He is a U.S. Army veteran who served one tour as a helicopter pilot in Vietnam. He graduated from Texas State University with a degree in law enforcement and worked as a DPS trooper. He and his wife enjoy traveling, attending Cedar Valley Baptist Church, going to estate sales, taking care of their four-legged children, and repairing and restoring classic cars and trucks. So with his variety and vast background, he was the perfect candidate to do our moderation tonight. So please welcome to the podium, Judge Stone.
My other attribute is that I work real cheap. I don't charge a lot. So anyway, we've got some formalities that we need to take care of. And if you were here in the previous session, you're going to hear some of this again. And if you haven't, well, this is the first time. The candidates have received this protocol sheet. And so I need to go over these as part of our procedures, and then we'll get right into the questions. So first of all, candidates will be provided the same information, which was this sheet right here. A candidate who does not attend cannot otherwise be represented either by another individual or a prepared statement. And if only one candidate is in attendance, there will be no forum for that office, and the candidate present will be permitted to make an opening statement. Questions will not be made and have not been made available to these candidates. Each candidate will be allotted the following times in answering questions: a 2-minute opening statement, a 1.5-minute response to each question, And since we have 3 or more people running for the same position, we're not going to have rebuttals to it tonight like we normally do. And then at the end of this forum, there'll be a 2-minute closing statement. And then if we have time for questions from the floor, and we hope we do, we'll have a 1.5-minute response to the question from the floor if time permits. So the order of the opening statements will be determined by alphabetical order, and you'll be noticing that alphabetically we start down in this end, go to Ms. Jones, and over here to Lau. We can't mess up on that, so I think we'll get that real good. The first responder to the first question will be the candidate who was second to make his or her opening statement, and subsequent questions will rotate between the candidates. To allow time for the closing statements, a total of 12 to 15 questions will be asked tonight. And our timer, Carrie, has done another great job tonight, is if a candidate is mid-sentence when the stop sign is up there, he or she may complete that sentence in as few words as possible. And if the candidate keeps on running on, I will stop them politely, and we'll move on to the next question or the next candidate. So that's all the rules that we need to go over right now. And so we have opening statements that have to be made, and these are 2 minutes long. And so, candidates, are you all ready? Are you ready? All right. Well, then what we'll do, Doc Jackson, you are first for your 2-minute opening statement.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I don't hear my mic, but I'm assuming it's being...
Can y'all hear okay? You all
Oh,
right?
okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much. I'd like to thank the Chamber of Commerce for having this forum for us tonight, and for all of you for being here, and of course those of you that are at home that are watching as well. I'm very excited to be able to be here and to run for mayor here in the city of Bastrop. I'm a 5th-generation Bastropian, and I've served almost 3 decades on the Bastrop City Council and have served on many, many different boards and commissions here in the city. And I feel ready to take the lead as the mayor of the City Council of the city of Bastrop. I would like to thank you again for supporting me over the years. I didn't do the almost 30 years consecutively because we have term limits, and that was partly because of me coming back so many times and running. But thanks to the citizens of Bastrop, I was able to leave the council and come back, and leave the council again and come back. But I have witnessed a lot of different changes in Bastrop, and a lot of improvements, and a lot of things have happened. And the one thing I can say as a candidate for mayor is that I have served with every mayor in Bastrop from the 1980s up to our current mayor, with Mayor Connie Schrader, from David Locke all the way up to there. And I've learned a lot from them, and I've learned some things not to do as well from some of them. So I hope to serve as your mayor, and I look forward to answering the questions that are here tonight. And I just want to thank you for the opportunity to serve in a community that I really love and want to continue to serve. Even at 70 years old, I want to continue to serve, and I think that I have the strength, the courage, and the integrity to do that. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Mr. Jackson. Ms. Jones, you're next.
Thank you for being here. I'm Deborah Jones. After graduating from the University of Texas, I made the choice to
Excuse
move.
me, we're having trouble with that mic again. Can you raise her volume a little bit? I apologize. Don't stop her time. I mean, stop her time or whatever, so, okay.
Don't
No, I didn't mean it that way. Stop her time, so, all right, you want to mic test one more time? I don't know where.
I'm Deborah Jones,
There we go.
and
Okay, there we go.
I've moved to Bastrop by choice after I graduated from the University of Texas. That's been 40 years ago, and just so excited about running for mayor and just the opportunities that we have in front of us. My husband and I, my children, we're all small business owners here. My grandkids go to school here. We're all here. And just love being here, this is our home. And my experience, I've been on city council before. I'm a real estate appraiser. I do litigation support as part of my practice. And just being able to bring people together as a communicator, you know, keeping the conversation going, helping people get along and make good decisions. That's one of the main skills I believe that I'm bringing to the table. So really looking forward to having the opportunity to answer questions and have everyone get to know me a little bit better this evening.
All right, Mr. Nelson?
Thank you, Judge Stone. I want to thank the Chamber for the proactive stance on involving citizens in this process. Also, thanks to the audience as well as those who are watching from other locations for their interest in their city government. You know, after serving or being elected to 2 terms on the City Council with 4 years as your mayor pro tem, I decided to run for mayor because I care about our city and want to continue the positive work that we started in 2017. You know, the definition of care is providing for the health, welfare, maintenance, and protection of someone or something. Certainly continue to address our infrastructure, such as roads, sidewalks, water, wastewater, parks and recreation, public safety, facilities, and drainage is extremely important to me. I support the city manager's initiative to review our planning and permitting processes to establish a culture of yes that improves the customer experience. We must be able to preserve our past, maintain the present, and plan for the future. Being part of your city council is an awesome responsibility, as well as an opportunity to represent our entire city, including the North End, Hunters Crossing, Riverside Grove, to Eastern Village, Piney Ridge, Pecan Park, and other areas, as well as our downtown. As a leader of our city council, I will work to make the city responsible for and responsive to all of our citizens. As a veteran and former tank commander, I have no problem taking on tough assignments. I will apply my 40 years of management to the work before us and will ask 2 questions on any matter. Is it good for Bastrop, and does it harm our citizens? My experience in developing and implementing multi-million-dollar budgets combined with my result-oriented approach will serve our city well. With a positive and collaborative approach and a strong advocacy for our community, we will make our city better now as well as prepare us for the future. Thank you.
All right. Okay, we're going to start with questions, and I guess I should do what I did in the first session. Whenever an elected official walks in the room, I need to recognize them. Sheriff Maurice Cook is here with us now. Don't y'all feel safe? All right, here we go. All right, Sheriff, welcome. All right, question number 1, and moving down the line. So, Ms. Jones, this will be the first question for you, and then we'll go alphabetically after that. So what is your view of what type of relationship council members should have as it relates to city staff and the day-to-day management of city operations? And I will tell everybody, if you need me to repeat it anytime, just let me know. That's okay.
So you're talking about the question, the relationship of the mayor with the staff?
Yes. Well, council members, which includes the mayor. So,
Okay.
yes.
So, first of all, the council elects or votes and gets in a city manager. So, fundamentally, she's the one that maintains all those liaisons between council and the staff. So, you have to be really careful how you interact with the staff. I mean, it's going to be very easy to have cordial relationships with the staff. We have a great staff up at the city, but you have to be really careful about direction and involvement, and make sure that you go through the proper channels so that you don't create any misunderstandings or make any of the staff uncomfortable about what it is that you're trying to accomplish. So you have to be very careful as a mayor and as a council member to make sure that you respect the chain of command and your place in that.
Okay, Mr. Nelson, a minute and a half on these answers.
Thank you, sir. A fairly simple answer to that. The city manager supervises all the staff with the exception of the city attorney and the municipal judge. The strong city government is brought about by having a strong city manager as well as a strong council. With council being the policy-making body and the legislative body, the operational arm falls on the city manager. And the city manager, if she's going to have the responsibility, she must have the authority. So that's going to be real easy. Every interaction with staff is going to have to go through the city manager if we're going to be fair and allow her to do what she does quite well. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Jackson?
Well, quite simply, the council, which includes the mayor, sets the policy for the city, and the city manager controls the day-to-day operation. In a city like ours, it's sometimes hard, I suppose, not to be able to interact with the city staff because we know them all, but in a perfect world, we know our place, and we know that we need to make sure to work with our city manager if there's questions that we have or any things that we have to ask of the staff, and run that through her or through him, whoever the city manager may be at the time. And so therefore, I've always followed that rule in the times that I've been on the city council. I've made sure to address the needs of the citizens and asked them and directed them to speak to the city manager directly, and then they could speak to the department heads. And I've tried not to. In fact, I have not interfered with the interdepartmental operations to make sure that we wanted to make sure that the city is run properly and that the city manager has control of the day-to-day operations. And so therefore, council has policy and the city manager has the day-to-day operations, which includes the workings of all the departments and the staff.
All right, thank you. All right, question number 2 is Mr. Nelson. This is for you. Development is the economic engine of Bastrop. Commercial development has been virtually non-existent over the last 3 years since the city spent approximately $500,000 on the B3 form-based code, which was passed by the city council. If elected as mayor, can you explain to Bastrop voters what you will do to remedy this situation that has been created?
Yes, sir. You know, when the codes were adopted back in 2019, was the intent of having a culture of yes, to utilize the flexibility, the creativity of the private sector in managing the development that was coming, that was here, that was inundating us even back then and even more so now. What we need to do is continue looking at our planning and permitting processes, encourage the city manager's initiative in reviewing the codes to ensure that they are compatible with the continued growth and development of our city. We need to be inviting to developers who want to bring positive development to enhance the livability and the quality of life for all of our citizens.
All right, Mr. Jackson?
Would you repeat the question? please?
Yes, I'll read it. It's a long question. Development is the economic engine of Bastrop. Commercial development has been virtually non-existent over the last 3 years since the city spent approximately $500,000 on the B3 form-based code, which was passed by the city council. If elected as mayor, can you explain to Bastrop voters what you will do to remedy the situation that has been created?
Well, if I am elected as mayor, and I think the microphone is going to need to be turned down or something here. Okay, it's still got a whiz in it. Okay, I'll try again. It doesn't want to work with me. Let me see. If I am elected mayor, that's better. Thank you. If I am elected mayor, I will be able to talk to the citizens and explain to them that the B3 code is something that we do need to work with and improve. It has some very good points to it, and it has some points that need to be improved upon. And I'll do to the best of my ability to work with the council, since the mayor doesn't vote, to make sure that we can tweak it and make the changes that are necessary. And I will, if we get comments or complaints from citizens, as has happened in the past, I will continue to work with the planning and zoning department, through the staff, through the city manager, and make sure that we can develop a code that is sufficient and will work for the citizens and for our community. It's got the code itself has some very good qualities to it, has some very bad parts to it. I think we need to definitely work on it and make sure that we can make it a workable solution that's right for Bastrop. I mean, I kept hearing over the years, authentic Bastrop, and I said, well, do you really know what authentic Bastrop is? I said, I think not. I said, so therefore we need to really work on that and make sure that the code does suit the needs of our citizens, the new citizens as well as the older citizens.
Ms. Jones?
So the question being that commercial development's just been non-existent the last 3 years. And so the question being that commercial development has been non-existent the last 3 years. And I think simply put, it's been very difficult to work through the system. I know that my family and I have tried to develop a piece of property for many years, and the problems that we ran into, which I think a lot of other developers ran into, I think a couple of things. The code was sort of, in certain ways, kind of a one-size-fits-all, and Bastrop's just not, Bastrop's not similar in every area. Bastrop's very diverse. And so that's the first thing that needs to be addressed, is just creating categories that facilitate highway growth, downtown growth, multi-acre growth, and so forth. So that, has been fundamentally one of the things, is just tailoring the code to meet those requirements. And then the other thing is the permitting system has been a nightmare. And one of the things about that is that we need to tailor, that system was put in place and it was never really tailored. So you would go in to apply for a fence permit and have 28 steps. This is something Sylvia identified quickly, and that's another thing that is going to make it a lot easier for development to occur.
All right. Is it my microphone? I've been turning it off.
Well, I've always considered myself to be a consensus builder in Bastrop, and that's one of the reasons I've been repeatedly elected, because I do try to bring consensus to the citizens. I've worked across the community with many different neighborhoods and organizations and groups, as well as with numerous council members, as I said, and mayors, and I've always been the person that's tried to bring them together. I have gone outside of my neighborhood and into the neighborhoods of the whole city to make sure that I'm listening to all segments, all varieties of people in our community, to make sure that that happens. And so I guess my record kind of shows and proves that I have been a consensus builder for almost 30 years or more than that, really, in the community. And with the different projects that I've worked on, the different committees that I've worked on, and some of the other projects that I hope to continue to work on. So I think just on my record alone, I could say that, and if you need to know more about that, you can go to my website, docjackson.com, or talk to me afterwards, and I'll be glad to expand it even more. But I've always been a consensus builder. I'm an easy person to get along with and to talk with, and I think you'll find that to be the consensus of the community.
So the question being, what would I be bringing as far as building consensus on council? And I think the first thing is just being a team player and being a good listener, identifying the facts, and if there is disagreement, you workshop it. So I know previously on council, we started out with a fairly contentious group and ended up with probably the best group of people I've ever worked with in my life. And I think that really came about from people respecting each other, listening to each other, and then when you don't have agreement, workshopping and getting citizens involved and getting understanding. And so I'm very clear about that process, and would feel like that's exactly how we'd want to keep moving forward as far as getting good decisions.
You know, the key to any collective effort is communication. I think through enhanced communication and collaboration, understanding what others' expectations are key to any common venture. We also need to remove ego from any of the processes to ensure that we're all working toward the same goal it doesn't matter who's getting the credit as long as the city is receiving the benefit. And when I say the city, I mean the city staff, the city administration, as well as our citizens, so that we become a viable part of the region and the state. But communication is key to that effort.
Well, he went first. Trying to figure this out as we go. So,
You guys can just take a pause between each time, making sure that Judge Stone has his mic off before you turn yours on, and we can stop from.
I'm just leaving mine. I'm leaving mine off. Okay?
So that way we can get some of the hissing.
Yeah. So, Ms. Jones, I believe, question number 4, you want me to read it again?
Go ahead.
What can you tell us about the TCEQ permit that the boring company has filed for, and why is the city of Bastrop contesting it?
There's a couple of things. The main goal of the city with that permit is to get the boring company online signed to use our new septic water treatment facility. And I think that's the main point of contention, is just making sure everyone's signing on the lines and we can have participation with that. And I think that fundamentally getting the boring company online, it's just going to, as far as the new water treatment plant that's going to be coming online, it's fundamental for us to have customers to sort of distribute the cost of that. So those are the two main concerns about that permit.
Yeah, it's a real interesting process. You know, the simple fact, well, suddenly I'm talking louder, gracious. The simple fact is they're wanting to put in a package plan instead of tying into the city of Bastrop's state-of-the-art plant. It is a matter of playing the long game instead of a short gratification. And I think it shows a great effort by the city to collaborate on ventures with new industries that are coming into our community, to enhance the livability of our community by utilizing a state-of-the-art plant as opposed to a package plant. I think the use of the term the city is against it is not so much the city has a better idea, and I fully support that idea.
Let's see if it's going to work for me. Okay, let's try it this time. I went to the public hearing that the TCEQ had here in Bastrop out at the Hampton Inn, and I listened with great interest to what they were proposing and what they were talking about. And I was particularly proud of our mayor for her comments and everything, and saying how we can work together with them, and they wouldn't have to necessarily, I'm not quoting her, but I mean, that they wouldn't have to necessarily do a package plant, that they could work with us since we've got the capacity with the new water treatment plants that is being completed. And so therefore, I think it would be more beneficial for them and for the citizens that are going to be served, for them to utilize that. And I would take it even further. I would hope that they would even maybe help to speed up the process a little bit by contributing to it and working with the city, so that we could get to a consensus a much sooner time than they would like to think that they need, so that we could go ahead and utilize the facility that we are in the process of finalizing. So I would definitely like to see them use our system and work together, and I think that the city and the boring company can work together. It's just going to take some more consensus building, as we've been talking about, and I think that we can get that and make it happen if we communicate with them and then they communicate back.
of the chamber. I will work with the chamber simply because the chamber represents the largest body of businesses in the county or within the city, and we'd have to work with them because it's a positive thing to do for the citizens of Bastrop by bringing business and individuals together to advance and benefit the community as a whole. Nobody works within a vacuum. It's best to collaborate and coordinate with as many groups as possible, including the chamber, including Visit Bastrop, including the EDC, including the county, including the state, including the feds. The chamber is that local group that must be worked with on a routine basis.
I concur. I am a member also of the chamber. In fact, I'm a member of all 4 chambers in our county, the Bastrop, Smithville, Elgin, and the new chamber that's been built that's a county-wide chamber. So I would work with all of them along with the plan of the BEST organization, which is Bastrop, Elgin, Smithville, Texas. That's an organization that was formed many years ago, and I was a part of that in trying to make sure that we worked together as cities, worked together with the county, worked together with economic development, worked together with many organizations like that. And I would continue to support the Chamber of Commerce, and I'd also branch that out and work with many other facets of the community to make sure that we get everyone's opinion, and so that we can work with not only the business community, but the school districts, the county, the economic development, and all of the different entities that make up Bastrop.
So I'm going to give you an example of what we've recently done to work with the chamber. One of the things that we're always tasked with when we run for public office is what you're going to do to get people registered to vote. So I have to thank my volunteers. I have lots of volunteers, all different ages, but one of them in particular, we've had a lot of fun going around and filming and making videos. And then my husband is a filmmaker. He let us use his editing system, and we put together a Get Registered to Vote video that we shared with the chamber. And we've gotten so many people registered, especially 20-year-olds that just didn't know how to get registered. And in the times that I've spent walking door to door, I would go up to people's houses and they'd say, well, I don't think I can vote. I'm not registered. And I'm like, well, can I show you this video? It's just, it's not very long. And they're like, oh, I didn't know that that's what you did to get registered. And so it was really fun. And that's just a real-time example of, not only actually getting something done that's needed, but having a really good time doing it and getting a lot of people involved.
Very good question. That's a project that I think has been discussed for many, many years because it will also not only bring in new development and more shopping opportunities as well as jobs and everything, but it will also connect that segment of our community and form a better way of transportation, a better route. And why it's taken so long, I'm not really sure, but I think the connectivity would be an improvement for our community, as well as the extended shopping opportunities and job opportunities would be established. I can't really answer why it hasn't happened. I know that it needs to happen, and I've heard that from many people over the years, that why can't we connect the community through using that track and expand our roads to connect to downtown, as well as to bring these opportunities into our community.
So I believe the piece of land you're talking about, it's the goat pasture over there by Lowe's. Is that what you're talking about? So I can tell you why that hasn't happened, and it really sort of ties back to a question we had earlier. and I can relate to it on the small side, and I'll get back to that. But it's just the permitting process and just the code in general was sort of set up as a one-size-fit-all, reproducing downtown. And it doesn't apply to that highway type development. So as far as just going in and being able to get a permit through a system that wasn't really tailored, and then trying to get exemptions or warrants or variances, it just didn't work. And we sort of experienced the same thing with our rural property up on the hill that we were trying to develop. We didn't fit into the code. And I can tell you that Sylvia, right when she came in, she took the goat pasture on the extreme side, which is a huge retail development, and then she took our project, which we'd been working on for almost 5 years trying to get permits, and as sort of the small creative historic project. And that's an example of what the city's doing to make this development work, is create categories that are specific to that type of development and creating a code that's more expanded so that it's easier to get through the process.
Well, it's been delayed for a long time. We started with no rather than yes. We sought ways to prevent them from developing that process and collaborating with them to find what the impediments are, remove those impediments that benefit not only the developer but also our community. There's lots of things that tie into that program, as well as the east-west ingress and egress, to allow for or to dismiss the 5-minute trip to Walmart and the 30-minute to Lowe's and the 30-minute trip back to town. I believe if we continue with the culture of yes, we can remove a lot of those impediments and move these projects along. And this is certainly a project that should be given certain attention.
This is a really easy question for me. I believe that the city's a facilitator, and it's very important that we remember that we're here representing the people. They're the ones that pay for us to be here, and our job is to really put people that come into the city to get permits, to move forward with projects, literally to shepherd them through those processes and help people get through and be very service oriented about that process. Yes, there's going to be regulations. You don't want to impose on your neighbors, but by and large, I believe very strongly in people being able to use and develop their property in a way that makes sense and that works for them. And so, no, I don't think that preventing and delaying development is the answer. I think that facilitating it, shepherding it, and creating an environment where the city literally works almost as a partner, keeping these projects individual. And they, just like I said, they don't fit into a one-size-fits-all. The city is very unique, and we need to work with all the different facets we have in the community so that we can get, help people make their dreams come true as far as being able to develop their properties.
The city should always be the facilitator, never the impediment. We should find ways to help our citizens. It's something that we are charged to do. Never an impediment, always a facilitator.
I agree. I think the city should definitely be a facilitator, and I've seen instances where the city has been a facilitator as well as a block in the road, you might say, in a sense also. And what it all boils down to is basically communication, working with all the partners that are involved and making sure that we see both sides of the project and make sure that we try to meet the needs of the citizens and the developer or whoever is involved with it so that we can continue to have our growth and make sure that it's controlled growth. I mean, we don't need to worry about saying, well, when the growth comes, the growth is already here. and we definitely have to meet the needs of the growth and be prepared for it. Control growth, the proper type of growth, and looking at the very types of neighborhoods and communities that we have. We are a multicultural community that has so many different possibilities in it, and I think that we miss the boat sometime by not really utilizing all of the sources that we have. And I think now that the city, thanks to our new city manager, is working more closely with the different elements, I think that we're going to see a lot of changes, and we're going to be able to make some headway in making sure that that does happen. So I welcome that change, and I welcome trying to enhance the facilitation of the growth of our city.
Well, based on the information I have, it's like reading a hieroglyph. It is an archaic product that is not serving the citizens that we currently have, nor the developers that are moving in. It's a system that was had great promise, or was promised greatly, that has not borne the fruit that we wanted. In speaking with the city manager, she's looking to resolve that issue and bring us more up to date on the technology that we utilize to serve our community, both those who are here and those who are coming.
I agree 100%. I guess you could say I gave up on trying to use the MyGov app because it was so complicated. And so many citizens have come to me, or had come to me when I was in office, and asked me, how do you navigate through this? And I said, I think you'll have to go to the staff and let them help you with it. And I know that we were wanting to update it, and there were so many limitations. I mean, it came in very promising, and it was something that we were really looking forward to having. It was a new development for our city. It was a new development, a new technology for us, but it didn't really meet the grade because it wasn't flexible enough to work with our community. So I'm glad to know that the new city manager is looking at it and trying to figure out a way to make it work for us, because it's been a failure to me in the past and to many citizens, and I would like to see a way of tweaking it, or maybe even replacing it with one that's going to be more user-friendly and that has some flexibility, because it, just to be honest, has never really worked for me personally and for many others. And so I'd like to see it tweaked, replaced, or some new implementation process that will make it a process that we can utilize that will help our citizens to do the permitting and other things that they're using.
So my understanding is when we purchased the MyGov system, that was one part of the process. The second part of the process was actually tailoring it to the city, and that didn't really happen. So thus you would click on getting a fence permit and you would have 28 items come up. You know, in reality, there should have been a second step to the implementation of that process where somebody came in and said, oh, you probably only need 3 steps here. Let's get rid of these other, 25. And so I think that there's the possibility that it can work, but the fact is you've got to finish setting it up. And it's one thing to buy something, but it needed to be taken out of the box and put to work. And so I also, in addition to, and I think that that's actually being addressed right now, but in addition to that, that we really need to have an opportunity for people to come in that are just completely incapable of using computers to actually write something on a piece of paper and be able to get something done. And again, that goes back to being a service being a service group, which I think is the heart of the city, and then also facilitating people. So, yeah.
I'm going to try this one more time. It's working. And I get to announce we're going to have a break. Yay. So, come on.
Can we say we love technology? My phone's blowing up back there. Yeah. Can't hear you. Anyway. the joys of running a candidate forum. So anyways, again, we're gonna let these candidates have a short break and rest a moment. And again, if you've heard this, I apologize, but we want to make sure for those that are new or just tuning in with us, have this information. First of all, early voting starts this coming Monday, May 24th, and goes through the 29th. The hours are 8 a.m. through 5 p.m. And then early voting continues on May 1st and 2nd from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. with Election Day Saturday, May 6th. Voting locations can be found at bastropvotes.com and under the voter information tab. And again, to save time, please print off your ballot in advance, make an informed decision about what you're voting for, so that you are not startled when you go to and get your ballot. Because I know personally, I'm going to say I've always found something if I don't do that on the ballot that I was not aware that we are electing for. You can take a paper ballot in, but you cannot use your cell phone or a tablet. And then I want you to know that on May 6th, there is a $321 million bond for the Bastrop Independent School District on the ballot, and the Bastrop Chamber of Commerce is in full support of it. The school bond is at a 0 tax rate increase. For more information on this bond, please refer to our press release that's on our website, along with a resolution that was passed by the governing body of the Bastrop Chamber of Commerce, representing 800 members and more than 14,000 jobs, or check out the details of the bond at the Bastrop Independent School District. Also, if you would like a sign in support of the school bond, we have signs out here on the tables. We'd love for you to pick one up. Those are provided by our PAC called Support Our BISD Kids. And there are people in this room who served on the Citizens Advisory Task Force, as well as the PAC, including myself. And if you have questions and need them answered, please come see me, or I can direct you to someone else who served on one of those committees. So at the end, we're going to take up questions that will be asked at the end. So if you have questions, I will be taking those up now. So candidates, did you have a good break? Sure. It was such a long break. You know, if you work for 4 hours, you get 15 minutes. You got 30 seconds. You haven't worked hard enough yet, right? Anyways, I'm going to turn this podium back over to Judge Stone.
Well, that was a long break, wasn't it? Okay, she could have talked another 10 minutes, been fine, so. All right, we're gonna move on to question number 9, and looks like, Mr. Jackson, you get to go with this one first here. So, on April 11th, the City Council approved the appointment of 2 City Council members to vacant seats on the Bastrop Economic Development Commission Board. That makes a total of 3 from council, counting the current mayor. Is this a good thing or a bad thing, and why?
That's a good question, because I served on the Bastrop Economic Development Corporation Board early in my career as a city council member. In fact, the BEDC was formed during one of my terms on the city council. And we had that same issue come up years ago, because we legally could do, I think, 4 council members and 3 citizens. And we were trying to figure out how to do a balance. And we went back and forth with that over many, many times. We initially started off with, I think, 3 council members, and then we elected different citizens to come in. But basically, the bottom line comes back to the council, because they approve the budget of the BEDC, and they work together on several different projects. And so the way that we worked it out back then was that we decided that to make it easier, we would go ahead and have the 3, I think we had 2 or 3, and we ultimately went down to 1 council member, or the mayor, serving. But knowing that it had to come to city council for the vote for finalization on the budget and things like that, and that seemed to work well. The citizens were the ones that were the driving force behind that, and they directed us to do that, and so we listened to them at that time. But it may have changed now, so I don't know exactly what to say, but that's how we had to do it.
Would you please repeat the question?
Do this again. On April 11th, the City Council approved the appointment of 2 City Council members to vacant seats on the Bastrop EDC Board. This makes a total of 3 from the council, counting the current mayor. Is this a good thing or a bad thing, and why?
Okay, ideally, I think the way that the BEDC was set up with the mayor being the liaison was the best solution. But things changed. So I think that there's kind of a mess with that. And so clearly the council feels like they need to put those members on there to get things sorted out. And so I have to say I agree with that, because we're not really in an ideal situation right now. So, and I think just like what Doc said, you just have to listen to the citizens, and then you also, as a council, just have to make a decision about what's going to work the best right now. And I would think once BEDC gets back on its feet, that the number of appointments on BEDC would most likely decrease, and we would, to me, the preferable solution would to have as many people from the community on BEDC as possible.
Thank you, sir. I currently serve as the vice chair of the BEDC. We were left with 4 members on the BEDC, as well as a opening with the executive director. EDC and the city council very thankfully appointed our city manager as the interim director, executive director of BEDC. The mayor holds the ability and the right to appoint. She appointed 2 of the council members simply because it had been very, very difficult to bring somebody on board with the city manager already drinking from the proverbial fire hose to try to bring them up to date on what was occurring within this dramatic growth area. And so putting 2 council members on there was a good move to move the city and the EDC forward in a productive way until such time as other members can be appointed to the BEDC Board of Directors. It's very positive, and we're going to move forward positively. Thank you.
All right, question number 10, and this will be for Mrs. Jones. To function well, the city must maintain strong working relationships with Bastrop County, the Bastrop ISD, the Bastrop Chamber of Commerce, and neighboring cities. Do you believe these relationships exist at the levels they should, or is there room for improvement? And what should be done to maintain or improve these relationships?
Well, I think that these relationships probably are not the best that they can be right now, just because we're dealing with so much growth and so much change, and we're all having to adapt. And so I think that there's definitely an opportunity for everyone to move forward. But the good news is that the people at the county level, BISD, the city, et cetera, all have proven that they're very capable of working together and making very good decisions. And I specifically think back to 2011 when we had the wildfires, and that's kind of what I feel like we're maybe in right now, is just, trying to get things under control and figure things out. So I think the key is just crisis like this has a tendency to bring out the best in everybody, and just giving everyone an opportunity, I believe, is going to take us to where we need to go in these relationships.
There's always room for improvement, but the ability to communicate and collaborate on projects that benefit the public should be the key factor in everybody's mind. There should not be egos and turf wars out there. What benefits the community as a whole should be the mission of every elected official and people who are appointed under them. The relationships can be improved simply through communication, the collaboration, coordination, and understanding what the other's needs are, rather than just providing your selfish reasonings for it and allowing egos to come into play. I'm not saying that's the case now, but we need to ensure that it does not become the case.
I was just looking in front of me and saw that there's a county commissioner right in front of me, so I guess I have to be very careful with how I answer this question. But I know many years ago when we were trying to get a countywide cooperation between the cities and everything, when we developed BEST, the Bastrop Elgin Smithfield, Texas group, and we were trying to put together former rivals and make sure that they communicated and worked together. And that's what initially it was an organization with the mayors of the cities, and then it was including the economic development groups and the Chamber of Commerce and several other groups to work together so that we would not be rivals and we would work together, and it would, because we're serving some of the same citizens. But maybe in different residents. But people from Elgin come to Bastrop and shop, even though they have a Walmart, and an HEB now, but they come here sometimes. People from Smithville come here. And some of our people go over to those places to shop also. And so with the elected officials on the different projects that we're working on, the collaboration and the communication is key. And that's something that has been lacking in the past, but I'd like to see it continue to improve. I had tried years ago to get quarterly meetings or annual meetings with the cities, the school district, and the county working together, and that didn't go too well. So I'm hoping if I become mayor that does work out.
$11, and this will go to Mr. Nelson first. Housing and multifamily studies done by the Bastrop EDC has projected strong ongoing demand for housing in Bastrop. What efforts would you propose to attract new development in order to meet this demand?
Well, it's been addressed in several comments that the planning and permitting process needs to be improved. Need to be inviting to any developer that wants to provide positive development within our community. That includes housing, and the housing needs to be diverse housing. Needs to be multifamily. It needs to be garden homes, apartments, and something that will provide the workforce that we need to draw into our community a place where they can call home. And we need to continue working toward that collaboratively with the EDC, with the chamber, and work with our city manager to ensure that we're providing the appropriate policies that make it much more palatable for people to move into our community and bring those positive developments.
All right, Mr. Jackson?
Would you repeat the question, please?
Sure will. Housing and multifamily studies done by the Bastrop EDC has projected strong ongoing demand for housing in Bastrop. What efforts would you propose to attract new development in order to meet this demand?
Well, I agree with my co-candidates here. I mean, we definitely need to work together and have some different types of housing, because housing is something that's definitely needed. We're beginning to get a lot of new development and lots of new subdivisions coming in, but yet and still a lot of them in the past have been going outside of the city limits because of some of the planning and development type of issues that we've had in the past. But I think it's important that we work together to try to build houses for the future, because as I've said, the growth is here. It's not coming. It's already here. And we haven't been able to really meet it in all the demands, especially in the housing category. So that's something we need to look forward to. And as well as the housing, we have to look forward to making sure that we can divide the workforce for the new houses and the people that are coming in. People are coming in and they're not necessarily living in our community. They're driving to other places, but we need to make sure that we can make the housing happen for them, as well as have the workforce development put together that will provide the training and the skills so that they can find the jobs here, and then we'll have the housing as well. So I think that the housing is something that definitely needs to be improved upon, and all levels of housing, whether it's apartments or townhouses or single member houses or families and single member residencies.
So a couple of things. We all are in agreement that we need to be easier to work with. So we just need to bolster that reputation so that, developers that have really been put off about coming into our community because of restrictive circumstances, we've talked about that, will want to come in. And the way that they're going to want to come in is if we do what we say, which is we want codes that work, we want to be easy to work with. I think the developers have done a pretty good job creating diverse housing, especially if you look at some of the projects that have been going in over on 969 and creating solutions for different types of living situations. I will say that when I was on council, one thing that I thought was very important that I felt responsible for was just creating a situation where people could rent out their ADUs is what they're called, but just the second little cottages and houses that they have on their property. And the idea behind that was just that if you were in town, it's nice, like let's say you have a parent that wants to live with you, or if you have a kid, or if you have like some really awesome talented musician that I'm looking at right now who lives in your ADU, and making that legal. And I just have so many friends that took advantage of that and created second living houses on their property so that we could have more affordable places to live.
That's something that I'm glad to say is being addressed by the new city manager from what I've understood. I know that we have tried to, over the years, add different staff members as the years progressed according to how the budget preceded us. But now that this growth has just been explosive, it's even more important now that we do add additional staff members so that we can improve the services and the quality of life to our citizens. And so I am thinking that we are going to try to step up our efforts and add more staff so that we can more expediently provide the services that the citizens demand without increasing the taxes as much, because we'll have new people coming in which will help share the burden of that. So yes, I think that the city is going to be stepping up on changing their game with adding staff to make sure that we have adequate staffing to meet the needs and the services that are provided to our citizens. And so I'm hoping that if and when I'm elected, that I can help encourage the council to vote in and work with the city manager in voting in the increased staffing that's needed to meet the needs of our growing community.
What was the second part of that question? It was appropriate staffing, and then what else?
Appropriate staffing. You do this. Appropriate staffing and manage. Oh,
So I think the quick answer to that right now is we need more staff, and with that, I think you're talking about management structures, pretty much starts at the top. I think we've got the top nailed. So it's happening, but the quick answer to that is no, we don't have enough staffing, and the management structures are, I think that's part of what's happening right now. But there's definitely a couple of things that we can do to achieve that, which is, my opinion, kind of getting out of the way of people that do want to do projects in this city, and allowing and working with people to build and remodel and fix fences. I think as some of those regulations go away, I think it's going to alleviate some of those management backlogs and so forth that we have right now.
The answer is that we are short-staffed right now, but another question is, do we have the right people, the right number of people in the right place? Because of the great works that our city manager has done in a very short span of time, people think she's been here for decades, and she has not. And she certainly needs the time to assess her workforce and ascertain where she needs people and what people she needs in those places. We need to have the staffing to be able to meet the customer demands, and everybody that walks into City Hall is a customer.
See if this will work again. All right. Questions from the floor. I like these the best. So let's see, Mrs. Jones, you get this first. All three of you have served on the city council in the past, and infrastructure has been an issue for the last 20 years. During each of your tenures, what will you do differently as mayor to ensure that roads get repaired and maintained in a lasting fashion?
Implementation. We do not need another drainage and road study. We've done those. I think I'm aware of 3 drainage studies that we've done that I know of. I know that we've had 2 road studies done, and then they just get stuck up on a shelf, you know, and I understand. I think a lot of that's just, there's been a lot of fires going on, and when you're having to like really deal with water treatment and sewer and major issues with contracts and so forth, sometimes it's hard to take on even another project. But I think the city's done a really good job getting, you know, the water treatment, the water taken care of, and we're, I believe, getting to a point now where we can start implementing those projects. And I also know that we have the money to do that, and yeah, to get the road maintenance on a schedule. The money's there, and so implementation is the key.
All right. Mr. Nelson.
I didn't want to hit the mic until you called on me, sir. The council, led by the mayor, needs to provide the city manager direction on what needs to be done, and the roads are certainly a part of the infrastructure that needs to continue to be addressed. Needs to be addressed from a building standpoint, from a preventative maintenance standpoint, from repairing weather damage on a routine basis. But we do it right one time, we don't have to do it wrong 7 times.
All right. Mr. Jackson.
I agree. The implementation part of that is very important. But our total infrastructure is, I mean, the roads do need improvement. And I know we've done, if Deborah says she remembers 3, I guess I must remember almost 10 then that have come through. And I know that we've been trying to really improve the streets quite a bit. But there's more than just the streets that needs to be repaired. Before you put down a new street, you have to look at the drainage and you have to look at the water. We had some water pipes and things underneath some of these streets that need to be repaired, that also need to be repaired, so that we don't have to dig up the streets that we repair. And I think a lot of people forget that, you know, the surface is what people are looking at, but you have to look at what's underneath those roads as well, because we do have to get our sewage and our water, our pipelines. We had some clay pipes in the city and some things like that, and we've repaired some of the streets and we've had to tear them up just to get to that. And so we've got to look at more than just the streets. But if we do a plan, we need to go ahead and follow through with it, but make sure that we don't just include the streets, but we include the other infrastructure, such as the water pipes and things that are the base of that street, so that we don't have to go in after repairing it and tear it up and start all over again.
All right. Question number 14 from the floor. And Mr. Nelson, you get to go first on this one. Is Bastrop ready for compromise between small town tourism with big corporate factory and industry?
Wow. I think Bastrop, with the appropriate leadership and appropriate input from all citizens and from the experts that are out there, I think Bastrop is ready for to meet any challenge. And I think all the challenges that come with us, if we approach them in a collaborative and collective fashion, we're going to be able to meet that challenge. Whether or not that specific challenge of large industry coming in our community is something that the city of Bastrop can support at this point in time, I'm unsure, but we can certainly work and plan toward that to ensure that later on in the process we can be invited into large industry and large manufacturing. I'm concerned that'll interrupt the charm that our community has right now, but I think it's ways to work through and resolve any of these issues that come about with the appropriate amount of planning.
All right, Mr. Jackson?
Would you repeat the question, please? I'm sorry.
Sure. Is Bastrop ready for compromise, and I believe they mean between small-town tourism with big corporate factory and industry?
I think Bastrop's ready for just about any challenge that you could throw out there. We're a very, very savvy city that is looking at all types of opportunities. And over the years, I've noticed and I've watched us grow from a small rural community to a larger city with the help of the different tourism attractions that we have here. We have the river, we have the state park, we have the opera house, we have the music, we have all these different cultures coming together. And I think they've enhanced our community. Those are things that people look for when they move into the city, and they're things that people come in to visit us for. But the good thing about that is that those people come in and they go to our hotels and they go to our bed and breakfasts and they go to the different eateries and things, but then they leave. And so, in a sense, we do have the best of both worlds because we have a very strong tourism. Thanks to the Main Street program, to the Visit Bastrop, and to the efforts of the city and all of the different entities that are working with it, that we have a strong growth pattern. I think we're also beginning to develop more industry and big boxes and big industry coming in, but we've got to have the workforce. We've got to have to prepare our students and our current residents to be ready for the growth and the skills that are needed to have those large industries.
All right, Ms. Jones?
So this is very easy answer for me. I think what we have to do, it's not in my mind about tourism and corporations, it's about the citizens of Bastrop. And I believe as we prioritize what's best for our citizens, all that other is going to fall into place. But I think that has to be at the core of the decisions that we make. Not, I don't think that tourism should prioritize what's best for our citizens at all, ever. It's always got to be what's best for Bastrop, because staying focused on what's best for the community and the citizens is, I think, what's bringing everybody here, because it's such a great community. And so, as long as we keep you at the center, the citizens of Bastrop at the center of these decisions, I believe these other two issues will settle themselves.
All right, we're ready for the last question. Or are y'all ready for the last question? Yes. Now, I hope you can answer this within the time frame, but I'm going to read it to you. Let's see. Mr. Jackson, you get to go first. If you are elected, will you serve the entire term?
Definitely, I will, to the best of my ability, serve the full term unless God has other plans for me. But yes.
Okay. Ms. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Nelson?
Fairly simple, absolutely.
Okay. That concludes all the questions, except we have one more thing they have to do for y'all, and that is a closing statement, which is 2 minutes long. And Mr. Nelson, you get to go first.
Get to.
You do.
What a great process to be able to participate in such a forum. Thanks to Judge Stone and Ms. Foster for their efforts tonight. Thanks to the Chamber for their advocacy for our city. And thanks to our citizens who make our community the community we love. And we do love our city. We want to see it maintain the charm that makes us call Bastrop home, while working to manage the growth to help our city be an economic force within the region and the state. The city charter states that the mayor's role is to provide over council meetings appoint members of boards and commissions, and is recognized as the head of the city. Within those parameters, each mayor establishes their role and inserts their personality into how best serve and advocate for our city. I will work toward maintaining the integrity and charm of our city while advocating for positive development that enhances our quality of life. Policies established by your city council should be logical, timely, and consistent. We must work toward an open, inclusive government that is both responsive to our citizens and appealing to those who wish to bring positive development and improvement to our city. With a $50 million budget, we must work toward maintaining and improving all city services while being mindful of the cost to our citizens. Our greatest resource is our citizens. We should engage, involve, and utilize their many talents to improve our city for all of our citizens. Through collaboration, communication, and coordination, we can be a better city. I appreciate your support and your vote. Thank you.
Right. Mr. Jackson, keep it in order.
Oh, okay. I really appreciate the chamber and all of the people that have helped to put this together. And I also congratulate my fellow candidates here, knowing that we've all served on the city council, and so we know what we're getting into by wanting to take on this job. And so I think the citizens of Bastrop will be served well by whoever is elected, but of course I'm a little biased because I really want the job. I feel that with my experience, I've worked with the city for many, many years, and I've seen many changes. I'm a native from this town. This is the town that I love. I grew up here. I went to school here. I have served on the council. I've worked with numerous committees and different organizations throughout the city, and I've tried to break down many barriers and work to make sure that the community works together cohesively. And so I ask for your support. I ask for your vote. I've seen things I grew up just a couple of blocks from here. Before 71 was built, this was the main thoroughfare through town. And I've just, noticed all the changes, and I've just been amazed at the growth and how we've managed to see all of those things happen. And so therefore, because of my almost 3 decades working with the city, noticing the hospital changes. I mean, I was here when the hospital closed. I was here when the new hospital opened. Helped develop the BEDC, the new library twice, the sewer plant that we bought from Austin, and now the new one that's coming in. I was part of that, and as well as park development and other things. So I sincerely ask for your support, and I tell you that you will not be disappointed because I will work very hard for the citizens of Bastrop to make sure that you get everything that you deserve from a public official who has heart and integrity. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Jones.
One thing that we haven't addressed this evening is recreation, and that's a big part of what I would really like to focus on. Shepherding in some, whether it's putting together a bond to save the bridge and make it a park, I mean, that's a big project. Whether it's taking the hot funds that are available and getting the rodeo arena covered and putting it back on the circuit, that's a big thing. Making the parks better, trails, listening to the citizens on this survey that we've just finished, that's something we haven't talked about in literally every house I've gone to, and I have gone to hundreds of houses, door to door. Recreation is probably the biggest thing that comes up, and that's important. And so I think we all get it. We need to simplify development, I think that makes it pretty clear that everybody's working on that. Implementing maintenance of roads and drainage and infrastructure, really important. But, Bastrop is my home. It's my kids' home. It's my grandkids' home. And we just love it here. And I would really love and appreciate and be so excited to be the mayor of this community and the things that we can do together and the knowledge that I have and the talents that I bring to the table with finance and with communication and mediation. I'm just really excited about that opportunity and would appreciate your support. Thank you.
Well, Bastrop is very fortunate to have candidates such as these who have the experience, have already served on the council, and want to continue to serve. So you got a tough decision to make when you go to the polls, but me too. So, Becky, come on.
So I think this initiative is really accomplishing what it was intended to accomplish, and that is to get qualified people running for office. When I first came here, we were like on the front page of the paper all the time, not just our paper, but the American Statesman. And that was, I mean, we did. I mean, I think we have got quality candidates running for office. And again, I don't live in the city limits, so it's up to you guys, citizens. But anyways, you guys have got tough decisions because I think we have some quality candidates running for both place 2 and 3 as well as mayor. So again, I want to recognize a couple people. Cornyn is about to pull his hair out back there. Anyways, but thank you, Cornyn, for all your work tonight and being here so late with us. Our Government Affairs Committee, chaired by Dr. Christy Lee and supported by our Bastrop Chamber of Commerce Board Director, chaired by Chairman Evan Moylan. And Carrie Fossler, Judge Stone, have just a small token of appreciation for you guys. I can show appreciation for this free gig. So again, guys, thank you very much. I could not do it without you. And I know, Judge Stone, you spent a lot of time calling through probably 50 questions that were supplied to you and picking out the questions that were asked tonight. So thank you so much. And finally, again, to these candidates, I hope you'll come back again sometime if, you know, because there's going to be one winner on May 6th. So hopefully we've treated you with respect. And so we appreciate you participating in this candidate forum. Anyways, I think they did a fabulous job. So please, a round of applause. And again, when we're finished, if we could get a photo for social media. So if you guys would stay up here just a second when we're finished. But again, this initiative was begun in December of 2015. It was just a good idea, but I think we can truly state that it is a successful initiative that is benefiting the citizens of Bastrop and Bastrop County. So again, evaluate your options before you go to the polls. A lot of people fought and died for a right to vote. And so local elections affect us the most. I believe it was 3 or 4, maybe 5 years ago, literally an election was determined by one vote in Smithville. So please go to the polls, take your neighbors, and vote. And again, thank you for your attendance. Thank you for the people who are watching online. And please have a safe trip home so you can vote on May 6th.